The General Assembly back in session this morning. One of the issues they're expected to take on focuses on protecting children.
Toyota at the center of yet another recall. 1 million vehicles affected. What models you may have to take in if you own one and what the company has to say.
And we are keeping an eye on the weather. Right now, video from a possible tornado overnight in Mississippi. Emily, it will tell us what to expect as the day goes on.
Good morning to you, everybody. Thanks for staying with us at 7:30. I'm Kerry Charles.
I'm Brad Jones. National Weather Service now confirming it was a tornado that touched down in Sardis Lake, Mississippi overnight.
We're also getting reports of at least one person killed from severe weather overnight in Tennessee, with at least 4 other people hurt.
Real concern as we watch this strong band of storms kind of moving this way, Emily.
Right, and we already have a tornado watch that's come up to the Tennessee-North Carolina line, the eastern Tennessee sections, and not in North Carolina yet. But we are going to be seeing.
Good afternoon and welcome to Time Warner Cable News. I'm Caroline Blair with your Carolina Minute. We're watching a storm system brewing off the coast of Florida. We have updates on its status every 10 minutes in our Weather on the Ones forecast. Detention hearings for more than a dozen current and former law enforcement officers are happening in federal court this week. They're facing drug and firearm charges. The suspects include several Northampton County Sheriff's deputies and correctional officers, 2 former deputies, a Windsor police officer, an emergency dispatcher, and a civilian. North Carolina has hundreds of millions of dollars more in revenue than projected. Governor Pat McCrory made the announcement this morning. He says the state has a surplus of about $400 million. Early estimates had the state looking at a more than $200 million shortfall. And the funeral for a baby police say was killed by her father will be held this coming Friday.
You're watching Time Warner Cable News all day.
It is now 1 minute past the hour and time for a check of our Weather on the Ones forecast.
All right, Caroline, thank you so much. We've been watching this area of showers and thunderstorms.
Good news for North Carolina on the financial front. Governor Pat McCrory announced the state is projected to have a revenue surplus of $400 million this fiscal year. Time Warner Cable News senior political reporter Loretta Benini was at the announcement and joins us now with more. Loretta.
Governor Pat McCrory and other state leaders are hailing today's announcement as very positive news for the state. McCrory points to the tax reform that was put into place by Republicans 2 years ago as a major reason for today's $400 million surplus.
Detention hearings for more than a dozen current and former law enforcement officers who are facing drug and firearm charges will be held in federal court in Raleigh this week. They include 5 Northampton County Sheriff's deputies, 5 correctional officers, 2 former sheriff's deputies, a Windsor City Police officer, a 911 dispatcher, and a civilian. If convicted, they would face between 10 years and life behind bars. A baby whose throat was slit will be buried on Friday morning. The funeral for 13-month-old Ruby Rain Delaney Young will be held at the Jones Funeral Home, Jacksonville Chapel on Cheney Avenue. A GoFundMe page was started to help raise money to pay for the funeral. Her father, 37-year-old Anthony Young, is accused of killing her on Sunday morning in a bedroom of a home on Wilson Spur in Richlands. We're learning new details in the murders of 3 Muslim students in Chapel Hill. According to an autopsy report released this morning, Dia Barakat died from gunshot wounds to the head, chest, and upper extremities. The report says he was shot 8 times, 3 in the head, twice in the chest, once in his left arm, and once in his right and left hands. Yesterday, the autopsies for his wife, Yusur, and her sister, Razan Abu Salah, were released. They showed Yusur died of a gunshot wound to the head, and her sister was shot in the back of the head, and that the muzzle of the gun was touching her when it was fired. Police say they were shot by their neighbor, Craig Hicks, over a parking dispute.
Testimony continues today as a Raleigh police officer sues Starbucks over injuries he sustained after spilling a cup of coffee. Lieutenant Matthew Core is suing the coffee giant, saying he received severe burns and complications with his Crohn's disease. The officer says the cup collapsed when he received it in January of 2012 and caused intense pain.
It was horrendous. It was extremely painful. It was the most intense, extreme pain I'd ever had in my life. It was awful.
Core's wife is also part of the lawsuit, claiming she lost emotional support while her husband was healing from his injuries.
Federal prosecutors say they've reached an agreement with 5 video sweepstakes companies to stop providing software to hundreds of internet cafes in the state. This is video of a fencing company that authorities say was running a cafe. Prosecutors won't prosecute the owners of the companies in exchange for them agreeing to stop all operations in North Carolina by July 1st. Sweepstakes games are outlawed in the state, but sweepstakes operators have continued to operate while fighting the ban in court.
More than 600 members of the 82nd Combat Aviation Brigade stationed in Afghanistan are returning to Fort Bragg this week. This is video from a homecoming ceremony last year. Their return marks the end of a historic deployment for Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Freedom's Sentinel campaigns. The brigade served as Afghanistan's lone aviation task force, supporting the U.S. drawdown in Afghanistan.
A photograph posted to Instagram by an East Chapel Hill High School student has racial tensions boiling over. The picture is said to have been taken during a field trip to Gettysburg and shows 2 girls waving Confederate flags with the caption, "South will rise." We were at a press conference at the school district's headquarters Wednesday where the father of the girl who posted the picture confronted the state NAACP. Time Warner Cable News anchor Sharon Stone has a look at the emotional exchange, and we want to warn you, the father uses some emotional language.
Together, not one step back. Forward together, not one step back.
A contentious scene unfolded outside the Chapel Hill Carborough City School office Wednesday morning.
We are not answering.
You are the father of the daughter.
You need to have your own press conference.
Ronald Creator is fighting for his daughter's reputation after the East Chapel Hill High School student posted this picture to Instagram. Creator says the picture was taken during a recreation of Pickett's charge. He says his daughter meant the caption, "South will rise," innocently. But a comment to it that reads, "Already bought my first slave," has tempers flaring.
These students didn't just appear in a picture waving the Confederate flag. And the student who posted that she had just bought her first slave or is ready to buy her first slave didn't just appear from out of nowhere. Right. Racism is learned behavior.
Creator says his daughter had nothing to do with the slave comment, stood against it, and apologized.
My daughter's comment was no, with arrows upwards, meaning this is not what we intended, and the photograph was taken down immediately.
But she's faced public criticism for it anyway.
My daughter has been threatened with murder. She's been called a whore, a I'm just telling you what she's been subjected to on social media.
Rally organizers say they want more accountability from the schools, while school officials say they're following their policy.
Racism in any form needs to be addressed head on, especially by those that we consider responsible, educated, intelligent, and informed adults like our superintendent.
As I said, I can't get into specific consequences, but within our policy, these activities that happened didn't rise to the level of a suspendable offense.
Sharon Stone, Time Warner Cable News.
The photo has since been taken down, and the person who posted the picture has since apologized.
Later, the Centers for Disease Control issues a warning about salmonella. We'll tell you why it's not food that you need to be concerned about. First, it was big sodas. Now it's something else that could harm your health. We'll tell you what New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg wants to hide. Hey, just because you can't walk doesn't mean you don't have the moves. How a fad really got this baby going.
Get down, get down. Hey. They say going over the hill doesn't mean you have to slow down. After 8, Dan Marino, James Brown tell us all the joys of life after 50. Hey, more football news here. The Carolina Panthers want you to pay up.
Hey, it's not higher ticket prices or concession prices, but they're going to the state with a price tag, and some lark is already talking about what could happen if they don't pay it.
It's Recipe Wednesday. We're getting you ready for the big game, cooking up some Super Bowl food. One for all those San Fran fans right after the break.
But on this Recipe Wednesday, food that will score big points at a Super Bowl party.
And that's what everybody wants. Everybody comes over. You want to have the great
yes.
stuff. Shannon Smith, live with the chefs at GTCC in Jamestown this morning. Shannon, everyone's a winner so far.
Absolutely, and so we've been cooking up some for Baltimore Ravens fans. Now let's head to the other coast for San Fran. Look at Keith Gardner, all decked out in his 49ers jersey.
The College of Cardinals locking themselves inside the Sistine Chapel, ready to elect a new pope. Now, this video actually shows something called the Room of Tears, and this is the place where the papal robes are pressed and made ready for whoever selected as the new pope. And this actually is a first because the Vatican has never allowed cameras inside the Room of Tears. While that's a first, there's still a lot of secrecy at St. Peter's.